Zola is a new film directed by Janetska Bravo. It's an A24 film that's been released in theaters, and also this film stars Taylor Page, Riley Keough, Coleman Braun. Zola follows a stripper named Zola who embarks on a wild road trip to Florida. And this film is based off a true story. Well, it's based off the Twitter feed that went viral on October 27, 2015 from a stripper named Isaiah King. And this movie is basically translating her story through the Twitter feed of the tweets. Yeah, going into this movie, I knew what I was expecting. This is an A24 film, and so basically when you go into an A24 film, you gotta change your expectations from this film, from the movies, because their movies are obscure, different, and hard to watch at times. So this movie right here is different. So you're going into this movie looking to be thoroughly entertained.
We don't do that here.
Because this movie is raw and intense. You follow this story through this woman named Zola. She's a stripper, and she travels with her friend that she just met named Stephanie, and they go on and they embark on this wild road trip to Florida. You know, they're doing sex work, they're dancing, they're stripping, and that's a lot of uncomfortable scenes in this movie that are intentionally in this movie because they want you to bring you into the eyes of the strippers. Now, what does that make me?
Private dancer who does it for money. Tell me what you want me to do.
There are a plethora of uncomfortable scenes that was intended to bring you in, so therefore you can feel and get a understanding of the world they're in, so you can understand what these strippers are dealing with, and you can understand the emotion, their emotion, and you can feel them in a way, so you get an understanding of this is intense. This is a situation that I don't want no woman to experience. Watching this movie, there are some intense scenes that I got myself emotionally involved, and that has to do with the terrific performance from the main cast, which is Riley Keough and Taylor Page. Now, this movie follows the eyes of Taylor Page's character Zola, and because you follow her voice throughout the movie, she narrates in certain scenes, and also there's a cool element in this movie where some characters will break the fourth wall. As you understand these characters, you learn that these characters are in a situation they can't really control, and they don't really have much options. They don't have nowhere to go, so they have to be committed to what they're doing, and they have no choice. Character Zola, who was portrayed by Taylor Page, she did a wonderful job in this movie. Like, she did a good job of dancing. There are some scenes where she was stripping as well. There are some intense emotional scenes and raw footage you see, and also she did deliver a groundbreaking performance where I was emotionally compelled and I was into this movie from start to finish. And Riley Keough, she plays a character named Stephanie, and Riley Keough, she did a good job playing the character Stephanie. She's the best friend of Zola, and you're basically following these two characters and her boyfriend Jared and her pimp named Z. You get an understanding for a character, you feel for a character. There's some times where you kind of feel like, okay, this character is kind of way over the top, and almost every sentence she says in this movie ends with bitch, bitch, bitch. Hi, bitch. But also Coleman Braun, which I have to say was the problematic character in this movie. He is the pimp that is basically guiding these two women into destination, and he's basically forcing these women to do what they're doing during the night during their time in Florida. And his character was intense. Coleman Braun gives out a haunting performance, because there are some intense scenes where he kind of has to show like intense emotion, like of anger, and then when this character Z shows anger, it brings more emotion to the characters, because you kind of feel these women even more, and you're like, oh man, this guy is terrible, this guy is dangerous. I don't want no women to experience this, to be around that guy. The direction style, this movie was directed beautifully. I liked her directing style, and like the film has like traditional aesthetics of an A24 film. Like, it actually feels like an A24 film, the way it's edited and how each scene transitions into the next. Now, this part of the video will be a little bit tricky, I feel like, because this has to do with a small little particular of how it was filmed. Like, how can I say this? Like, this film is based off a true story. It's based off the Twitter feed that went viral on October 27, 2015. Now, after the movie, I read the viral Twitter thread, and just to gain a perspective of the film. But after reading the Twitter thread, it actually lowered the quality of the story, because there are some scenes in this movie that didn't happen in the Twitter thread. Oh, and then this movie, I felt like there are some certain scenes in this movie that was presented just for dramatization at times, and also there are some moments in this film where characters make decisions that, and after reading the Twitter thread, the time discrepancy doesn't align to the real life event. Another thing, after reading the Twitter thread, I feel like that the film should have been longer. I feel like this film had more story to tell, and after reading the Twitter thread, there was definitely more story to tell. But the problem of it all, when the film was trying to end, the film had a hard time trying to figure out how it's going to end. So it has some special wordings, it has some music, some montage scenes, then it ended. And I feel like that was a little bit sloppy on that transition. But other than that, this film is a good movie. I enjoyed it. And also is intense. It's uncomfortable. It definitely gives you those A24 uncomfortable vibes. You gotta go into this film getting ready to feel uncomfortable and feeling the feels. So I had to give Zola and Christian Bale Batman. This is a good movie in my eyes, and I will definitely buy on Blu-ray. So that's my review of Zola. Have you seen Zola? What are your thoughts on Zola? Comment below and let's talk about it. And I'll see you guys in my next review. And if you like everything you see and you agree, subscribe to my channel and join me in the Batman family. I'll have more Batman-tastic reviews on the way. You have been warned. Till then, ciao.
I'm your private dancer, a dancer for money. Do what you want me to do. I'm your private dancer, a dancer for money, and any old music will do.